Hello, this is Vladimir Kramnik again, and I would like to record actually a new serial of rather short episode, at least to my standards, shorter than usual, more explaining the general methods of statistical researches, and since quite some time already, few months, I also have Twitter and YouTube channel, and I see a lot of comments, and frankly, well, I'm a bit puzzled because there are so many logical fallacies or some obvious mistakes in understanding of what I thought was, pretty clear and obvious. Maybe because due to the fact that quite some of the people who comment young or very young, maybe even kids, and therefore this will be a different type of video. I think maybe more interesting even for all of you than all those numbers and explanations. So I want to explain you certain basic ideas. I mean, I'm sure many of you know it already, but maybe not all, or maybe not everything. So seeing this whole kind of development in the world, I decided to record it because, well, then maybe it will be easier for you to understand all these graphics, numbers which I present, and in general I believe it can be useful information for all of you. So actually, let's start from the very beginning. I believe that actually education in general is a key of everything. I mean, of separate countries to do well, of the whole world to be a place, comfortable place to live in. And I'm very disappointed that in general in nowadays world situation, well, education is not the main point. Okay, of course there are some money spent on it, but by far not enough, because once you get maybe it's done on purpose, I don't know, but actually the point is that with an educated person, it's much more difficult to manipulate when a person knows basic things on different in different fields. And I even wrote an article once some years ago about the certain things which must be probably changed or added, adjusted in our educational systems to be corresponding to the times we are living, like subjects like logics, which was actually as a subject, as a course, maybe only 1 year of it. I'm sure it would be extremely important and useful to implement in school at some point, as a consequence of it, but probably a separate subject is how to work, or at least a course, maybe a few months course at some age when kids are already capable of understanding it, how to work with information, for example. Yeah, because we are living now in totally different world where the amount of information which falls on our heads is absolutely incredible. We've never seen it in the history of humanity, and probably it will only grow more and more. And we need to explain the kids from the very early age how not to get lost, how not to get smashed by this information, by a lot of forces which try to manipulate you, of course, as we all understand, in their way, with good or bad intentions, but they want you to think the way they like. And how to deal in all this mess if you don't know certain rules, certain important basics. Well, it's very likely that you will be manipulated actually all your life from all sorts of forces. So as a logo, as a motto of today's video, I would like to present you this this citate: there is only one good, knowledge, and only one evil, ignorance. Socrates. If some of you will get confused what kind of Socrates is it. I would tell you that it's not the Brazilian football player of the 80s. There was one called Socrates, but somebody who lived pretty much before him. And if you don't know this person, probably my advice would be to print this and to put it on the wall of your bedroom and to look at it every day. Of course, I'm half joking. Of course, one of the major philosophers of all times, Socrates, said this. I'm not fully, it's a little too much, a little too, I would say, radical, this statement. So I would actually prefer the second one, which I'm going to show you. But still, in my opinion, yeah, this is a very big problem, evil, if you want, ignorance. It's mainly damaging a person who is ignorant, but also it actually damages everybody around, and it creates a world, it creates a world we are living in, and it worsens it incredibly, because it makes more and more people like that, more and more easier and easier to manipulate them, and finally, if there will be majority of such people, then we will live in the world according to this situation. So, okay, that is, I strongly believe in it, that knowledge is everything. Without it, even if you're bright, clever by nature, you will not achieve anything, you will not have a good life. So let's go now to the second one, which I like maybe even more, which is, here. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance. Martin Luther King Jr. Well, true. Unfortunately, ignorance is not just just a mistake. Unfortunately, it's a very important and dangerous mistake for everyone around. That is, I wouldn't say that it's evil, maybe it's too strong, but that the fact that it is very dangerous and very damaging, actually, that is fully true. Then the next one, I will give you a few citates. Why? Because I actually like a certain wisdom in the form of citates, because it gets, when they're clever and short, it gets very, deep into your mind, and somehow makes people remember it and try to get more knowledge. So another one, also very nice one, the ultimate ignorance is the rejection of something you know nothing about, yet refuse to investigate. So yeah, that's unfortunately on social networks, you see a lot of it. So people are, obviously by their comments, they are not extremely, they have very little or no practically knowledge at all on the subject, but they don't want to actually to dig into it, and they express their opinion. And unfortunately, it influences, the mass opinion of same people, because we cannot know everything. We are not specialists in most of the fields we are reading about. And then when those non-specialists are in their mass expressing their opinion, which actually is a mistake, because, okay, if you don't know something really, it's just listen, just listen to specialists, don't express your opinion. It's not something anti-democratic, it's just common sense that, okay, why would they argue with, physician about some, about physics? No, I would just say, sorry, I just listen to you, and I try to understand something, try to make some opinions, but I don't dare to dispute you, because simply I know that I'm ignorant, at least compared to you, I'm ignorant in this matter. So it's also very important, to whether to try to investigate the subject further, whether probably just to listen, and okay. So that one is nice. And then that one is funny. Bertrand Russell: a stupid man's report of what a clever man says is never accurate, because he unconsciously translates what he hears into something that he can understand. Actually, that's true. That comes, well, that's enough for the appetizer. And that comes to my next Wikipedia page. Again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to laugh at everyone. Actually, those are very important things. It's very important to be aware of it. Yeah, and but we will come back to the business if you are bored. We will come back to the business, which is anti-cheating and so on. But it's just introduction. So then, what I would like to show you is this. Actually, there is a well-known effect. I will read you. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So, Wikipedia page. The Dunning-Kruger effect is defined as the tendency of people with low ability in a specific area to give overly positive assessments of this ability. This is often seen as a cognitive bias, as a systematic tendency to engage in erroneous forms of thinking and judging. In case of the Dunning-Kruger effect, this applies mainly to people with low skill in a specific area trying to evaluate their competence within this area. The systematic error concerns their tendency to greatly overestimate their competence, to see themselves as more skilled than they are. The Dunning-Kruger effect is usually defined specifically for the self-assessments of people with a low level of competence. What it means? It's actually, yeah, well, we all probably know that it happened with all of us pretty often. That to put it simple, yeah, in a simple language, sometimes you are so incompetent in a certain area that you cannot even understand how incompetent you are. You see what I mean? I mean, once you get to a certain level, at least of some knowledge, of certain knowledge, okay, you are still can be, well, far from being fully competent, but you're already competent enough to understand that actually think it's much more complex, the whole story, and that, well, that you know not so much. As again, the same Socrates says that all I know that I know nothing, yeah, more or less that. But for that you need to know already something to be able to understand it. So, like, let's say if we are talking about chess, it's pretty much, you know, this very typical situation we all know by our own experience, when a person comes and offers you a move and he's extremely confident, he just blunders the piece, so he cannot really play chess, but he's terribly confident that this is the best move. Yeah, we all know this very well. And more stronger is a player, more he's okay. He can only be confident that this move is very bad, but which one is the best? Oh, it's so difficult. He understands how in most of the times, how difficult is this situation, is this decision, to understand it. Yeah, so more you know that you know not enough. Yeah, let's put it this way. So that was the introduction, just for general. I think it's very important to be aware of it. I mean, it doesn't mean, again, that I'm laughing at somebody, or it doesn't also mean that you cannot express your opinion at all. You can, but be careful before expressing it. Make sure you are not suffering from Dunning-Kruger effect. Make sure you are not suffering from ignorance in this particular field. Learn, I mean, try to understand the reality. Try to base your opinion on facts, on statistics, on mathematics. It has to be coherent with mathematics. Then another, already it's a general culture thing, that try to be respectful, not insult person without any reason. I mean, when he didn't insult you first, I mean, yeah, that's already a matter of culture. So finally, now what I want to present you is the certain basic ideas about. So this video will be about the first part, maybe a couple of questions I will cover. Well, let's first go into this question. That is the first, kind of logical biases, logical fallacies, yeah, people have when they're talking about the anti-cheating. So now we are back to our field. Well, the first one, what I heard many, and I would like to explain something on it. So the first, which I one which is important, very often I can hear this argument, yeah, that well, there is no proof. You don't show me the proof. Well, now let's take a bit of time. Let's not have attention spin, and let's think. Let's just use logics. The subject I really would like that it will be taught at schools from the early age. Okay, if you say that any statistics, any mathematical probabilities cannot be proof, but what can be a proof? I mean, what can you define as a proof realistically? Not just, everything has to fit the reality we are living in. So, realistically, what can be the proof? I mean, when a person admits himself out of the blue, just decides he's cheating, and then he says, "Well, I was cheating." Will it happen? Well, one out of million, maybe. Yeah. Then that you catch him. How can you catch him if he's playing on his own at home? Practically impossible. So telling that you need 100% proof, actually, logically means basically that a priori you tell, okay. There is no anti-cheating control. I mean, so if you decide that you cannot make a certain decision of banning a player, or let's say asking him to play on public under surveillance, just because of statistics and results, it means basically you allow cheating, like you don't fight with it at all. So that is very clear logical conclusion. So please, those who are giving this argument, just think about it, and you will probably understand. You'll have, unless of course there is a big amount, quite a considerable amount of people who are doing it on purpose and who are trying to defend actually cheating for various reasons, cheating online, maybe because they do themselves, maybe because their friends do, maybe because they think it's good. It's okay, but I hope most of you are not on this side. But if we are talking about people who sincerely actually think like that, then okay, try to answer this question: what can be the proof, and to connect it with reality. I mean that it can be realistic. As you know, for example, the juridical system is working in the same way. I mean, if we would use this argument in a juridical, in court cases, 99% of criminals will be out now from prisons because, well, they would just never admit that they committed a crime. And then what? There is never 100% proof. I mean, very few cases, maybe in 5% of cases, but in most of cases, it's sort of beyond reasonable doubt. Yeah, it's very famous terminology in juridical system that once it's beyond reasonable doubt, you decide. You are never 100% sure. 100% never exists in our planet. Yeah, nothing is 100% sure. But when you feel it's beyond reasonable doubt, you have to make a decision. So of course there will be one chance, out of 1,000, depending how clever you are, how good is anti-cheating system, that you will make a mistake. But unfortunately, you cannot do anything. Whatever you do, you take a car, now go into supermarket, you can get killed, by another car. Well, it can happen, So it doesn't mean that you cannot take a car. It's very basic, simple. Actually, logics, but I don't know why so many people, they cannot get on their own to this idea that, yeah, there is a certain minus in anything you do, in any system you implement. But if you can manage to avoid this minus, okay, of course, fantastic, but I don't see if somebody can offer me how to be sure that anyone let's say you ban for 100% sure cheater, without actually the situation when, if you do it in this way, for sure minimum nine cheaters out of 10 will not be banned, and they will rob and ruin completely online chess. That is very obvious consequence. okay, if you find me a way how to do it, please, but I don't see, it's obvious there is no way. So you have to choose whether you will have 1 out of 100 person who will be banned, again, not sent to a death penalty, not sent to prison for 10 years, just banned for half year, 1 year, I don't know, whatever it is. Or you will have cheating, massive cheating online. I mean, sooner or later it will be total. So choose what you, between those two variations, there is no third variation, unfortunately. So choose what you like. So that is the first argument. Then let's go. The second argument here, I would like to present you. I wrote certain text. So that would be the end of today's video. So I want to present you this, because what I often heard that that even what was the most disappointing for me, because it's hard to believe they can do it without understanding what they are saying, but even from professionals, sort of professionals, or maybe even real professionals, they were explaining the mistakes, so to say mistakes, which I do in my statistic researches, that the data science, it's cherry picking and so on. I will just explain you step by step. I think I will try to do it in a way that everybody can understand. So I've written a text. So first, and the most important point actually, that anti-cheating detection, anti-cheating detection, these researchers which is having a goal to find possible cheating, online, is not data analysis. It's the goal is different. So you cannot implement exactly the same rules which so data analysis have into this anti-cheating detection. And that is, to me it's so obvious. Yeah, I will just explain you why now, and it's obvious. That's why it's really disappointing to see some people who have at least education in mathematics and so on, and they are, making this, kind of very simple logical fallacy. Because I wrote here, what is the goal of data analysis and goal of cheating detection analysis? Also data analysis, but especially for this goal. Yeah, it's actually, first of all, the goal is different. So you cannot implement exactly the same methods when the goal actually is not the same. Because when you analyze data, so what is the goal? I write here, getting information from the clean data, because first you have to clean the data. You have to make sure that all the data is coherent, clean, there are no mistakes and so on. So the data is a priori already clean. Not a priori, but you do it before you analyze. So the data has to be so-called clean. So get information from the clean data, select it for the study, and searching for various coherencies in order to, similarities, in order to draw certain useful conclusions. Whatever idea of your conclusions. Let's say you analyze certain data, let's say there is certain medication test, and then you see, let's say 1,000 people were taking this medication, and you have to see what was it a good effect, not good effect. Yeah, so then it's one story. You're not trying to find some hidden problems in it. Yeah, the data is there, it's correct, and then you try to analyze it. So that is a totally different, and to get certain conclusions, if it's effective or not, for example. Yeah, that is data analysis. What is in our case of anti-cheating detection? Goal is completely different. So what you are doing is actually you are searching for possible hidden unrealistic statistical anomalies, which would actually define that there is something really wrong, so probably cheating. Yeah. So you are searching for hidden, unrealistic, let's say, statistical anomalies. So you are searching for something different. In raw data, with a chance, I will explain you now why it's a raw data. Because there is a chance of it being purposely influenced by a creator of the data, so the player, whom you are whom you are examining, to make the task of the researcher more difficult. So The point is that this data cannot be a priori considered for sure clean, because you are searching a player. The next slide will be about how exactly you do it. So a player, of course, he's not an idiot, so he understands that he wants to hide his overperformance, his cheating. So he would try to do it in a way, maybe even lose a game sometimes on purpose, or let's say cheat in one tournament, then stop cheating in the second tournament, then cheat again in the next one. So of course he will try to hide it. Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, otherwise it would be easy, but that is clear. So then, I mean, it's a totally different goal. So you're searching for anomalies, where more in the real data analysis, you are searching for similarities, for actually the different thing. And there the data is clean. Nobody on purpose tried to manipulate. Here, if there is a cheating, then most probably somebody tried to hide it, to manipulate. So how can you with such different set situation and such different goals, how can you use exactly the same methods? It's absurd. I mean, I hope you understand what I mean. Yeah, that it just cannot be the same. It has to be very different. There are two different researches actually. So, and here it's more like postscriptum, but very important, very, very important also to understand. That's why actually, but first I read, okay, I will explain you why it's so important. Any major mistake in a data set which you use, or parameter settings, because you have to set certain parameters, what you are searching for, in what kind of data set, I mean, so any mistakes made on the parameters made by researcher or researchers, a priori make such analysis invalid. From the beginning, it doesn't make any more sense, yeah? Because like, simple example, let's say you analyze, let's say a team scored 5 goals in 2 matches, and you analyze the probability of it, but in fact they scored 6 and not 5. Okay, you can be fantastic mathematician, but if you have a wrong number, it will never work. Or in fact they scored these 5 goals not in 2 matches but in 5 matches. You a priori cannot have the right answer, even if you're a genius. So it must be so important to define, to take so much care before you start your research, to be sure that all parameters are correct. And that is the main problem of most of those researchers who are trying to explain how things really are, that there is no cheating, that I'm manipulating, whatever. In fact, they were whether on purpose manipulating, whether simply using wrong parameters, wrong data, wrong numbers. And like in this case with Hikaru Nakamura, as I explained already in this famous Chess.com research, they simply used wrong numbers. So they used about 50,000 games, there were less than 30. They were talking about one streak, there were many streaks. So that's it. After that, you don't need even to read this document, because if the parameters are wrong, on purpose or accidentally, that's it. You will never have a correct result. Yeah. So that's why this is very important. Then the next slide would be about, how do you actually make it? So methods of data analysis and cheat detection, analysis. So data analysis, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, that everybody can understand. So I cannot simplify it even more. I don't think it's too difficult to understand, but if somebody cannot, you can try listen to it again, reading it again, this slide. And if you cannot, then okay, I cannot do anything, because simplifying it even more would actually start to lose the point, yeah, start to be not true simply. So I'm trying to simplify it. So for the professionals, of course, they will find it too simple but I'm doing it on purpose. It's more complicated than that, but the essence is this. So in data analysis, so how does it work? So for general conclusions, most of the time it is a general conclusion. Like, again, taking this case of analyzing 1,000 of patients who are taking some treatment. You want to see your usually main, let's say, goal of the test is to see if it's effective or not. So you have a general conclusion. Let's say out of 1,000 people, you get some number, how effective was it, and then maybe you compare it with numbers of different other medicines, and then you see if it's effective or not. So that is what I mean general conclusion. So for general conclusions, only the data set in whole must be analyzed. Of course, you should never, if you want to analyze the full data and get this general conclusion, you should never cut the data. It has to be, if it's correct data, clean data, of course you have to analyze it in full. For that purpose, yeah. But here in our story, we have totally different goal. So yeah, and in case the task here, the task includes getting information on a certain more detailed, concrete question. Like, for example, you decide you checked the general efficiency of the medicine, but then you see, well, how does it work with older people, like, after 80? So that means you also have a certain very detailed already question, yeah? Or let's say, how does it work with kids? Yeah, then of course you divide this group, you settle certain logical parameters. Also, of course, it's simple, but it's important to mention that parameters should be legit, so logical. Like you cannot, there is no sense to study, let's say, how medication works with people with blue eyes or yellow eyes, or I don't know, green eyes. Doesn't make sense, yeah? So it has to make sense. So let's say people who are having bad health state or let's say who are healthy, that makes sense. Yeah? So then you can divide it into groups. So in case the task includes getting information on a certain more detailed concrete questions, like for example age of group, dataset can be divided, then only it can be divided into some legit groups in accordance with the goal and examined further. So, okay, you divide it logically, yeah, that let's say people after above 80, you divide it into this group and examine further in order to find a relevant answer if this data set actually allows it. Because sometimes, okay, there are only 5 people, or you don't have enough information, so you cannot get this information whatever you do on certain questions, but on certain you can. So most of the time it's about general conclusions which are made. So then you take the full data set. When you want separate, inside this separate conclusions, then you start to divide, and then logically, of course, there are certain rules how to do it in data analysis, but that is how it works in data analysis. And so there is no really cherry picking. There is no cherry picking anywhere. But I mean, the fact is that dividing, let's say, certain data set into groups, logical groups, when you are searching for a certain detailed answer on the detailed question, that is a must. You cannot manage without it. So it's not cherry picking. You have to understand that what is cherry picking, and all those people who are talking cherry picking, writing, this is just nonsense, because cherry picking is when you are choosing, taking from here, from here, from here, without any clear, let's say, goal, or without any clear idea that you are choosing. Here you choose the parameter in advance, but then once you choose the parameter, let's say people 80 plus, then you have to take all people. Of course, you cannot choose already from inside the parameter, but setting the parameter is not cherry picking. Actually, it's the only way to get more detailed information. So about cheating detection, anti-cheating detection method, it's a totally different story. You actually are not analyzing database in full. You are analyzing a concrete player performance is checked at first. So this is the first. You take a player, let's say you have 10,000 games, you are checking players one by one, because you are checking anti-cheating, not in general, doesn't make much sense, but concretely, there are concrete people who are cheating or not cheating, so you take one by one. That is already the big difference, the first one. If in most, and then you check the full all games he played, let's say, during a certain, let's say, period which you examine, whatever it is, let's say 500 games you take. If in most likely case, because this is most likely case, I explain why, since it is easy to hide it for an examined player. So a player, of course, if he has IQ below, above 30, okay, he will understand that he shouldn't win every single game 100 in a row. Of course, he will try to hide it, to lose somewhere in advance. Let's say, as I mentioned already, play 10 games cheat, then 5 games not cheat, and so on. So more and this cheating will be dissolved like in water, yeah, in a big amount of games. So this method of data analysis, it simply a priori cannot work here. It will 99% of cases, it will lead it. You don't even have to make it automatically. You're sure that all in all, the statistics in a long period of a person who is has a bit of brain will be within this statistical kind of range which is possible. And then, so everybody will be clean, everybody. And so if you want to get to this result, then of course that's how you should do, and that's how very often many people are confronting my methods, because they say no, but this is how you should do according to books of data analysis, but this is something different. And I explain them again and again that this is if you do it like this, it's a failure. You just can actually stop any anti-cheating because nobody will be detected. So then, understanding that since it's easy to hide, yeah, so you will never find any huge statistical anomalies. In a long, like in 1 year. Okay, maybe you will find with a lower rated player who are not experienced. With experience, international master, grandmaster, no, come on, they know all this. And especially taking into consideration that the barrier of proof, so to say, of chess.com is extremely high, like 99%. Well, it's so difficult to get below 99% just not playing it all in a row. It's very logical. I guess you understand the logic. So in this case, which most often will be the case, like 99 cases out of 100, you will not find anomaly of, let's say, below 1% in a huge long data set of games, because the player will take care of it, that it will not happen. So then the researcher must, okay, of course, if he wants to find truth, not if he wants to get to a certain conclusion which is already done, yeah, which he wants to get. But if he's searching for truth, so then what he has to do is has to divide his or her set of games into legit meaningful groups, so the same as I mentioned before, to make sure that each separate, it must be long enough set of games. Let's say that is the only point where it has to be discussable, because it's difficult, it's a bit intuitive, there is no clear definition what is long enough game, but okay, that is something can be discussed, but the rest is like basic, yeah, it has to be done simply. So he has to divide it in set of games with meaningful groups, so not like, again, blue eyes or yellow or green eyes, but let's say average rating of opponents, top players, this set of players, yeah, logical, yeah, which are make sense, and which has a long enough set of games, and has to make sure that those fits into the statistical deviation range. What I mean, that there is a certain standard. Let's say we take a group of 2,700 players, and how do they perform with a group of 2,500 to 2,550, whatever. All these parameters are completely legitimate, because you understand, okay, top 10 players against players who are below top 100. So you understand, it makes sense. And then you start to investigate it. So you take all games in this data set of these players and that players, for example. Or one player, how does you investigate one concrete player, how does he perform against players below 2,400, or how does he perform against players above 2,700 FIDE rating. Yeah, you understand, you are talking about different levels. You take a group of people, and inside this group you already take every game, of course. But that makes a lot of sense. So in every performance, whatever performance he makes, if a player, he or she, is not cheating, then any performance, let's say with 2,200, with in this period of time, let's say last year or this year, everything should fit the statistical kind of range, which is okay. It's not doesn't mean has to perform always on his level, but there is a big range of deviation, which is kind of statistically okay. But let's say if he is performing sometime 20% only of what he should perform, or the other time 70%, that's okay. That's not, it can happen, yeah. But I mean, that's if it happens once or twice, no problem at all. It happens with everyone. But if in general he performs according to a certain standard, plus minus a little, but let's say in 30 games in a row against, let's say, top 10 players, let's say he's overperforming so crazily that actually his probability becomes 0.001%. Okay, that is where we caught, okay, this is a problem, because the probability range, let's say, would be maybe, let's imagine, between 3% and 97%. But if it goes out of this zone in any, legitimate, decent set of games, it means probably he or she was cheating in this particular game, very likely. And not cheating maybe any other games. And then, so that is why you have to, that's what I say, that if any of it fails to fit this statistical kind of norm and plus deviation, of course, so it has to be more or less at least possible, then it means independently, very important, independently of all other tests, doesn't matter if everything else fits. If there is 50 games in a row which is not fitting, let's say, which is below 0.01%, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that other, the full test or other groups which you examined, they are fitting. It already doesn't matter. This one doesn't fit. So if this one doesn't fit, I'm sorry, it means probably the cheating took place. So I hope you understood. So that's why all those clever, in brackets, arguments that, but he had these 50 games or 100 games, but he lost some games before and after, so if you combine it, it will be okay. No, sorry, because let's say he scored or she scored 99 points out of 100 games. It also means that it's at the same time, the same player scored 99 points, let's say out of 104 games. Let's say lost 2 before and 2 after. But that is another story. It doesn't mean that he or she didn't score 99 out of 100. You see what I mean? And we are searching for the most crazy anomalies, which would, which are, let's say, statistically, mathematically impossible or almost impossible to perform. And that means that in this set of games, probably cheating took place. So it's a different test. Yeah, we are trying to find the highest, let's say, the lowest probability performance. That's why we are selecting. Of course, inside this group, the games should be in a row, but you have to select the most radical, let's say, deviation from this range. And then you see, is it possible? Is it realistic? If there are 1 or 2 or 3, and then you make the decision based on mathematics, based on this. So it is actually for anti-cheating detection, it is the only way. It's not only that it's wrong or it's right, and there is no other way to detect cheating. So that's why there is a conceptual huge problem in all those arguments, so to say. And now I just for the end of this material, I will show you just example. I just wrote down an example, just that you understand, let's say, in a human words. So example, I give you an example. So soccer team playing in a league, whatever league, British league. After first 29 matches of the season, this team is in the last place, yeah? Just imagine this situation. With 3 wins, 21 lost matches and 5 draws. Yeah, very bad, very bad performance. And therefore it's really doing badly. In order to stay in for the next season, to stay in the same division, it must score 7 wins in a row in last 7 games, for example. with significant goals difference on top of it, because, you know, to stay in the division next season. So what happens, let's imagine, okay, this team managed to actually this task, winning 5-0 each match, or let's say 4-0, 6-0, 5-0, yeah, like this, against stronger teams. Well, all teams are stronger in the division because it was in the last place of the division, but let's say these teams are somewhere in the middle, so they don't need really to fight for anything. Okay, how would you consider the situation? Very, very suspicious, extremely suspicious, yeah? So, okay, somebody, let's say the concurrent team, so finally this team manages to get in the, you know, in the zone that it stays in the league for the next season, and the concurrent team which scored, I mean, normal, let's say, in these 7 matches, 2 wins, 5 losses, okay, it finally goes to the lowest division, and it starts to appeal. It says, okay, I'm sorry, but this is kind of ridiculous. How come they won only 3 matches out of 29, then they win 7 in a row with such a huge score? It's ridiculous. And it gives it to Chess.com, of course, Chess.com, because they have the best anti-cheating system actually in the world, yeah, not only in chess. And Chess.com finally concludes that, well, we checked, yeah, our researchers, they made the conclusion that in fact what happened, that during the season, because you make data analysis, you cannot be cherry picking. No, you have to take as many games as possible, so the whole season. So finally this team scored 10 wins, 21 losses and 5 draws, which is totally within the statistical probability for any team of the league, which is true, of course. Of course, in general, yeah, team can, yeah, it's not a fantastic score actually. So, yeah, Chess.com made the conclusion that no, everything is clean, no problem at all. So you see what I mean by this, cherry picking, not cherry picking. It's not cherry picking, it's just if you are searching for anomalies, I mean, you cannot take all the games together and then only you have to find, okay, yeah, it's true that it won 10 games, lost 21 and 5 draws in the whole season, but also it's true that it won 7 matches in a row with 5-0 score, which is totally crazily unlikely. Yeah, so both are true. So it depends. If you want a result, negative result, you take as many games as possible and you will always get, as long, you know, as you take, I mean, 99% of cases, you will always get negative result. If you investigate what has to be examined, then situation is very different. Yeah, then you will have a lot of positive, for tests for cheating. Okay, that was for today. I hope it was interesting, educational, informational, and I will keep recording about this matter, trying to explain the whole methods which I'm using, why they're not only valid but actually the only methods if you really want to find cheating online and not just to show a paper that everything is fine, then those methods must be used. And so thank you for your attention. I hope it was interesting for you, and yeah, I will try to continue soon with my second part of this new serial.